Hello once again, dear viewers. You're watching Airy TV. Welcome to this week's open mic. As you can see, we are in the outdoors, the premises of the Agriculture Ministry, where they are hosting a guest, Mr. Nigel Redman, author of the book Birds in the Horn of Africa, the book I hold with me right now. Pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay. Dear viewers, we will be talking about birds in Eritrea, and before that, however, I want Mr. Nigel to give us a brief introduction about his work and about his experiences here in the country.
Thank you very much. Yes, I am an ornithologist by profession, and I have been for all of my working life. My own career has been twofold, really. I've been a publisher of bird books. I've published hundreds of bird books in the past 20 years, and I also lead birdwatching holidays, tours all over the world. So I take groups of people around the world and show them birds. It's you might consider it quite a dream job, really, and it is, but it's quite hard work also. And in the course of that, I've been lucky enough to travel extensively around the world. I've been to many countries. I've spent a lot of time abroad, and I used to travel a lot in Asia, but in more recent years I've been travelling in Africa, and I have a special affinity for Eastern Africa, Northeast and Eastern Africa, and this is the area I have specialised in. Okay. And it was really that led to me writing this book. As a publisher and as a bird watcher, I recognised that there was a gap in the market. There was no field guide for birds of the Horn of Africa. There's a very good field guide for East Africa, there's a very good field guide for other Western Africa and Southern Africa, but nothing for the Horn. So I decided that it would be a good idea if the Horn of Africa had a good, modern, up-to-date field guide.
Mr. Nigel, to come to your experiences, I mean, you're here on a first-hand visit. Well, I want you to tell me more about your experiences here in Eritrea. Which places you visited?
Indeed. Well, I visited. I've been to Kenya many times, and I've been to Somalia once, and Djibouti, and I've been to Ethiopia a few times. But I'd never been to Eritrea before. I've got to know some people here over the years, and I've been working towards coming here. And finally, thanks to Mr. Futsum Hagos, I've been invited here, and I've enjoyed my first visit. So I've spent the last 11 days travelling around Eritrea. I've had fantastic hospitality, fantastic experiences, wonderful friendly people, and amazing birds. We've looked around the environs of Asmara, we've been to Elabored, we've been to Gashbarka area, we've been to Filfil, and been down to Massawa. So it's been quite an extensive little trip. I've seen many different habitats, and I've seen about 250 species of birds in the past 10 days. So that's quite impressive, really. Eritrea's got about 600 species of birds in total, and which is an amazing number for such a small country. When you consider that the whole of Europe only has about 800 species. That is pretty amazing. So it is an important place for birds. It's also important as a flyway, and it's also important for endemic resident birds.
Interesting. Mr. Nigel, let's talk about the values birds have for a country. I mean, you've already started. We have a huge number of species. Well, even compared to just a nation such as ours. Let's talk about the value of birds a particular country does possess. Let's talk about their significance to that particular country.
Indeed. Well, birds have huge cultural significance, and people like birds. Even you don't have to be a bird watcher to like birds. Millions of people around the world like birds. A good illustration is my own country in Britain. We have they reckon there are probably between 50 and 100,000 bird watchers, which is pretty impressive. But there's 1 million members of the RSPB, the organisation, because these people just want to support birds. So birds, people love birds, and if we had no birds, it would be a very sad and quiet world. They are all around us, they are everywhere, and I think apart from the significance of birds to a country, it's more than just their their value of enjoyment for people. There are some people that go and hunt birds, but once you've killed a bird, that's it, that's the end of it. There's much more value in creating some sort of bird tourism, so that people go out and enjoy birds. The economic benefits of having birds around far greater than persecution of birds.
All right, Mr. Nigel, let's speak of endemic birds here in Eritrea, and if we can classify them perhaps a bit.
Yes, endemic birds. A bird that is endemic to a country or region is a bird that is found nowhere else. Most countries or regions will have some endemic birds. The Horn of Africa is particularly rich. It is possibly the richest part of Africa in terms of endemic birds. Southern Africa is the only other area that would compare in terms of endemism, but it's a much bigger region. So there are about 60 species of birds that are endemic to the Horn of Africa, and another 20 species which I consider to be near endemics. That is, they do occur just a little bit into the surrounding areas, but not very much, and to all intents and purposes, if you want to see those birds, you have to come to this region. So that means that there are 80 birds, 80 species of birds, which if you want to see, you have to come to the Horn of Africa for. Eritrea has around 20 of the 60, and about 10 or a few more of the near endemics as well. So that's not a bad tally for such a small country.
Perhaps if we can name a few, so that we can...
The endemic birds of the Horn of Africa fall into two categories. The montane species, which are the birds that are found in the highland block, of course, which extends throughout most of Ethiopia and into Eritrea. The other group of birds are the ones that are in what I call Greater Somalia, which is the Somali region, but we won't concern ourselves with that now. So it's really the highland species. So you've got fantastic species like I've got the list here of endemic species in the Horn of Africa, the 60 odd species and the 20 near endemics, and they include such wonderful birds as Rouget's rail. It's a member of the rail family. Rails are normally very shy birds, creeping around in mostly marshland vegetation, but the Rouget's rail bucks the trend, and it's a rail that actually likes to come out in the open and show itself. And it's a spectacular species. So that's one of the really special ones. Banded barbet is another bird that is found only in the highlands of Ethiopia and Eritrea. It comes in 4 different races, and that's a particularly spectacular bird. The Abyssinian woodpecker, a wonderful little woodpecker, quite a quiet, unobtrusive woodpecker. I think it's one of the hardest of the endemic birds to find. It occurs in forests, but it also likes areas with euphorbias and really quite scanty vegetation sometimes, and it'll even feed on stems of mature sorghum and look for it doesn't eat the sorghum seeds. It'll feed on insects that it can find in the sorghum stems. So that's 3. What other ones can I mention? There's all sorts of things like the white-winged cliffchat. The white-winged cliffchat is a species that lives in rocky places. It's a close relative of the mocking cliffchat, a much more widespread bird. It's black and orange with a little bit of white on it. And then, of course, you've got the thick-billed raven. This is the world's largest passerin, and a passerin is a songbird or a perching bird. It's a member of the crow family. Crows are not normally considered to be songbirds. They make rather raucous, unfriendly noises, but they are considered to be passerines, and half of the world's birds are passerines. So you've got half of the world's birds in one order. divided into many different families, and then the other half of the world's birds fall into about 27, 28 other orders. So the thick-billed raven is the world's largest passerine, which is quite impressive. It's got a huge bill. Seed eaters, there's the white-throated seed eater, is a near endemic that you find up here in the Highlands, and you've got the little black-winged lovebird. That's one of the smallest members of the parrot family. That's found only in the Abyssinian Highlands as well. And then you've got a very interesting situation with starlings. You've got red-winged starlings. The red-winged starlings is a group of birds which have long tails, mostly quite long tails, and they flash. They're dark blue in colour, and they flash red in the wing when they fly. There are 6 species in the region, and 4 of them are endemic. And of those 4, three of them are found here in Eritrea. So that's an interesting group. Francolins is another interesting group. The Urkel's francolin is a near endemic, which you find here. Francolins are what we call game birds. Some people shoot them and eat them, but they're fantastic chicken-like birds that live in inaccessible rocky places.
Okay, Mr. Nigel. Now, I mean, in your expert opinion, there is much that needs to be done to preserve these rich heritage that we have here in bird species, especially in enriching the biodiversity. If you can share your experiences and how best we preserve or perhaps even establish a bird watching communities.
Indeed. So, well, first and foremost, it's important to have protected areas for birds. If you protect an area of habitat, you will protect the animals and birds and other creatures that live in it. So a good network of protected areas that cover a representative range of habitats is essential. That's the essential baseline. Birdwatching clubs, birdwatching societies, always a good thing to have as well. They help to promote an interest in birds. The media could help too. Wildlife programs do an awful lot to encourage interest in birds. There are many people who've come to birds through watching wildlife programs. So that's another area. I said birdwatching clubs. Well, to have a birdwatching club, you have to have members to join that club. You have to have birdwatchers. Eritrea does not have very many birdwatchers, it has to be said at the moment. It needs lots more, and that's really important. And I really hope that it will begin to do so. And the first signs are very much there. Just to give an analogy, I remember when I first visited Nepal in the Himalayas about 40 years ago. There wasn't a single birdwatcher there then. Now it's got several birdwatching clubs. It's got hundreds of really keen birdwatchers, and it's just fantastic, the transformation. This can happen in Eritrea. And in my visit here in the last few days, last 10 days, I've been travelling around with 3 young people, recent graduates, and I've been helping them to see the birds. I've been doing a little bit of training, I suppose, and it's been fantastic to see their enthusiasm. They're good learners, they're quick learners, and I'm absolutely certain that they thoroughly enjoyed travelling around and watching the birds, and I think they will become bird watchers.
Mr. Nigel, I want to speak more about the diversity of bird species we have here, because I want to tell our people how rich they are when it comes to birds. Let's speak more about the bird diversity we have.
Well, like any country really, the diversity is dependent on the range of habitats, and you've got a very good range of habitats here. So we've got mountains, we've got forests, we've got open rocky areas, we've got lowland areas, desert areas, we've got masses of nice acacia scrub, and you've got the coastal plain, and you've got the Dahlak Islands, so you've got a good range of habitats, and that's one of the reasons why Eritrea has got such a large number of birds. And diversity in terms of different kinds of birds, well, of course it's well represented. There are representatives in Eritrea of all the major bird families, of course, so that's also good. We touched on endemic areas and endemic birds, and I said that they're mostly up in the highlands. That's very important, the birds that are here all the time, but we must also not forget the migratory birds. Eritrea lies on an important flyway. Every year, billions I should think probably, of birds migrate from Europe and Asia to Africa to spend the winter. Now, many of those birds will simply pass through the country. Some of them will actually stay here for the winter months. I'm talking about the northern winter. The seasons are we always talk about the temperate seasons with summer and winter, because you don't have those seasons really here. So these birds, which if they breed in Europe and Asia, traditionally we've always called our birds, but in reality they actually only spend about 4 months. Some of them only spend about 3 or 4 months in Europe, maybe 5 or 6 at the outside. So they're actually spending a larger part of the year in Africa on their winter quarters. Now, many of those birds, they migrate in the spring. They go north in the spring and they come south in the autumn. Bigger birds like the birds of prey and storks, they need air currents to filter down. They can't cross large sea crossings, so they tend to enter Africa at particular points, and they'll filter down through the Rift Valley into Africa that way. But the smaller birds come into Africa on a broad front, and Eritrea lies right on the Red Sea, and lots of them come through here. As I said, some of them will stop off here to feed on their way north and south. Some will actually stay here for the whole.
So basically it is a launch pad, Eritrea, would you say,
Yes.
in the East Africa flyway?
Very much so, yes. Birds that have wintered further south, when they're heading north, they will get to Eritrea. They will see the Red Sea. They'll think, right, we've got to feed up a bit now, because we've got a long crossing across Arabia, which is quite inhospitable. So yes, it's a really good launch pad.
Mr. Nigel, I want to come back to your book. Well, I've met a couple of the people that were accompanying you in your trip, and they told me that you have found basically new species that are not included in your book, and I want you to talk more about that.
Indeed. Well, any book is any reference book like this is out of date as soon as it's published. All authors and publishers recognise that, and this is no exception. My book is actually already in its second edition, and I'm now working on the third edition. So I just continuously collect information. When I hear of new records, I just make a note of them, and I store them all up, and it's a continuous process. So yes, I've managed to find a few new bits of information. I think a couple of them are probably mistakes. The ring-necked dove is not mapped for occurring in Eritrea at all. I find that quite hard to believe, because I found it quite common in the Massawa area, and so either it's a recent arrival. It's perfectly possible. Birds expand their ranges all the time, as well as their ranges retracting because of habitat loss and so on. So they do expand into areas, and it's quite possible the ring-necked dove has expanded into Eritrea fairly recently. I need to get home to check my own library to confirm that or not. But it's certainly that species is fairly common in the Massawa area, and may be in more of the coastal plain. So that's one species. The montane nightjar is also not listed for Eritrea at all. I heard one calling when I was staying at Phil. It's a bird sound I know very well. I got out my little iPod and speaker and I played the call, and the bird came flying in, and we spotlighted it and saw it flying around, and it called to us. So that's a species apparently not been recorded in Eritrea before. It's not a big surprise that it's here. It's a montane species that occurs on a number of mountain areas and montane areas in East Africa, and this would be the most northerly population. But so it's not the nearest population is not very far away in the south. And then the third one I found is definitely a new species, because it's actually a vagrant. I found a black-winged pratincoll. This is a shorebird, a wading bird. It's a rather unusual wading bird. It actually looks and flies more like a tern or a swallow. It's got quite short legs, and wading birds often usually have short, long legs. It's a bird that breeds on the steppes of Central Asia, and it winters in Africa, mostly in Sudan and probably Chad and places like that. West of Eritrea, and it's never been recorded here, and I found one at Elabored, which was a very good record. The trumpeter finch, it's a wonderful little finch, and it occurs across northern Africa, and about 20 years ago some friends of mine, it also occurs in Arabia as well, I should say, and into the Middle East and so on, but about 20 years ago some friends of mine found a small population in Djibouti, and it was thought that those were the only ones in Eastern Africa. But when I got here, Futsum told me that, showed me a photograph of a trumpeter finch, and I said, "Oh, where did you take that?" He said, "Oh, down in Danicalia." So that's the first record of trumpeter finch for Eritrea, which is very exciting. So that's another one that'll go into the third edition of the book.
It is indeed. It is. Mr. Nigel, I want to talk about international conventions that happen dealing with birds, and I want you to tell me how best would Eritrea be represented in conventions such as those.
Okay. Yes. There are a number of organisations that deal with welfare of birds throughout the world, and countries sign up to these organisations, and it's all, and then they make laws and agree policies to protect birds on an international, worldwide basis. Birds don't recognise country borders, obviously, so it makes sense that countries get together like that. The IUCN is one such organisation, and it does lots of work, and countries sign up to various conventions. BirdLife International is another really, really important organisation. It's based in Britain, but it's far from being parochial. Its brief is to protect birds worldwide, and what it's done a very clever scheme, called a partnership scheme, where the leading conservation organisation in over 100 countries, because that's how many they've got at the moment, the leading conservation organisation joins the BirdLife International family. Presumably they pay some sort of fees for this membership, but the benefits are that they are represented by BirdLife International, which has got a fantastic staff of several hundred dedicated ornithologists and scientists. How to join? Well, in Eritrea's case, you would need a conservation organisation here, which I don't know what form that might take. It may not exist at the moment, but that's what you would need. In Britain, we have the RSPB, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, which is the organisation that represents Britain. So you need to have an organisation that will be able to participate and join the BirdLife International family.
Okay, all right, Mr. Nigel, let's talk about capacity building. Okay, let's call it training. All right. For instance, the three new graduates that have accompanied you in your visit. Let's talk how best do we have these programs ongoing.
Well, it's in an ideal world, of course, you would be conducting these programs yourself. You'd have Eritreans teaching other people. Bird clubs is really one of the best ways. But if you have a bird club and you've got some people who can lead bird watching excursions, that's very helpful, because to learn about birds, you can learn so much by reading a book, but there is no substitute for field experience. You have to go out in the field to watch birds, to really get to know them. And it's not just a question of seeing them, getting to know that their sounds and songs and calls, that's what's really important as well, because that's such a useful way of finding birds. A lot of birds are quite secretive, but if you hear it, you know it's there, then you can start looking harder for it. So you need to get people trained up. Bird walks would be good. If you had a bird club and you had one or two people who knew a little bit about birds, they could organise maybe a weekly bird walk. This happens in many places. There's a local club that I'm part of in Britain that organises bird walks where an expert goes round with anybody who's interested and helps them watch birds and teaches them a little bit. They also organise a programme of talks and evening lectures, which people enjoy, so that would be good too. It's got to start small, but it will grow, and once the momentum gets going, it's surprising how quickly it can grow.
To summarize our interview, Mr. Nigel, you're telling me Eritrea has what it takes for birds enthusiasts.
Absolutely, it has. It's got birds. It's got lots of birds. It's got lots of habitats. It's got a wealth of birds, really wonderful looking birds. So yes, it has. It's got exactly what it takes. It just needs a bit more, a few more people that know about them that can then help others learn more as well.
Any final messages?
Final messages? Look after your birds. They are really important. When they are gone, they're gone. It's very hard. Well, extinction is forever. Those ones will never come back. But if you lose a bird from Eritrea that still occurs elsewhere, it's hard to get it back. Even so, often they're lost through habitat loss, and unless the habitats are recreated, they won't come back. So yes, it's important. Look after your birds. Have good, solid, protected areas for them to live in. Enjoy them. Make people aware about them, and that's could be done in the media, articles in magazines and papers, television programs, all that sort of thing. Encourage people to set up or join clubs, participate in local bird walks. They don't have to be to faraway places. They could just be locally in a park or a local bit of woodland or marsh. Yes, just promote birds and encourage people to enjoy them and value them and not hunt them.
We thank you for your time, Mr. Nigel. Dear viewers, that was Mr. Nigel Redman, author of the book Birds in the Horn of Africa, and he has been sharing his experiences with us on Open Mic about birds and Eritrea's contents in the birds biodiversity, especially that of birds. That wraps up this week's Open Mic. It is good night from us.